Welcome everybody to another Beyond Terrain mini lecture. We got a wet and foggy evening here. As you can see behind me, trails are a little soaked. Please forgive me if I'm watching my step, maybe not looking at the camera as much. I wanted to take you guys along for a little hike into a lake here. It's the evening, it's getting kind of late. I don't know if we're gonna make it to the lake. We'll find out. We're gonna try and put her in high gear and talk about a few fundamental terrain principles. Today, the topic of discussion is scrutiny, scientific scrutiny, when it comes to the root causes of disease, especially. This conversation obviously bleeds into the whole lot of empiricism and why that's sort of a flawed way of looking at things. I got Merrill here leading the way. Should be a good walk. When it comes to scientific scrutiny, this is obviously a very important topic that, has kind of guided me, and not necessarily something that I've ever listened to a lecture on. Obviously, when it comes to science, in its truest form, we're in the pursuit of some sort of truth, some sort of understanding, causal relationships about our realm. Now, obviously, science as the profession, scientistry, how it's conducted through academia, is complete garbage. I don't even know if that's the true goal of their scientific agenda and profession. I think their goal on a personal level is esteem. Scientists want to be right and publish papers, and they want to continue to get funded. They want more and more research projects. Obviously, they want to be funded. They need funding to make their living. So it's understandable why those at the bottom of the chain, so to speak, kind of seek that out and just adhere to obviously the greed and corruption and the higher levels. So obviously, when it comes to the pursuit of truth, which is hopefully what we're trying to achieve in some sort of way here, treating our questions of causal relationships with the highest level of scrutiny is important, because the truth should be able to face unlimited amounts, the most difficult, strenuous types of scrutiny out there. The truth always holds true. The truth exists regardless of our opinions and regardless of, our biases and our theories and our papers, our thoughts. The truth exists regardless. So obviously, the terrain community has sort of thrown a lot of counter arguments, a lot of scrutiny against, our modern understanding of diseases and what causes them. We understand that sugar doesn't cause disease in and of itself. As a molecule, so to speak, it doesn't cause disease whatsoever. Now, processed sugars, which has a completely different definition, might include candies and chocolate bars and things of that nature, that certainly could be the cause of disease in some cases. Other things include genetics, our genetics, our immune system, cholesterol. Sunlight doesn't cause disease. Germs don't cause disease. Microbes, viruses don't even exist. Don't worry about them. Parasites don't cause disease. Fungus, mold, all of these things do not cause disease. Now, we've had videos on the causes of disease, but I want to make some interesting discrepancies here that usually aren't covered in those types of videos of what causes and what doesn't cause. But essentially, the point that I want to make is that we've used the high degree of scrutiny and discernment to decide what does and doesn't cause disease, and to see the nonsense in, our modern understanding of what causes disease. The nonsense that our genetics can cause disease, right? This is unfalsifiable, unscientific statements made in genomics, virology, other fields as well, serology, immunology, microbiology. All these fields make total fallacious claims with absolutely no scientific evidence, and we've had to read these papers and look at them thoroughly and assess them. Not just me, obviously there's many people leading the field. Certainly not in that scenario. I'm learning from hopefully the best, I think, like the Baileys, Cowans, Kaufmans, Lando, etc. But to get to this point that I keep alluding to, it's that empiricism always fails. And The reason I say this is because even when it comes to toxicity, like cupcakes, injections, you know, is it a fair statement to say that all of this disease is caused by injections? You know, is all chickenpox or mumps or polio caused by infections? No, I don't think that's a fair statement, blanket sweeping statement. But are there many cases where that is the case? Of course, it's true that, you know, injections, cupcakes can certainly cause disease, but not in all cases is it the primary cause. The other thing about causes of disease is that it's often multifaceted, not often just one cause, right? It's, as holistic healing is, the causes of disease are also very holistic. So electromagnetic frequencies, you know, it'd be very easy to read the invisible rainbow and conclude that all flu-like symptoms are caused by electromagnetic frequencies, non-native ones, to be clear. But again, it's just certainly not the case. Many people are, including myself, have, you know, I've been exposed to high levels of electromagnetic frequencies and don't get sick, right? So there's other factors at play. Maybe there's a interplay between these electromagnetic frequencies, these non-native ones, with, you know, toxicities. Maybe there's electromagnetic principles when it comes to the discussion of toxicities. You know, maybe toxins carry some certain non-native electromagnetic frequency in the body or create some sort of energetical imbalance, right? I guess back to the point about empiricism is that, look at that, I love walking through this. If we were to conduct a study like they've been doing, right, they try to connect autism and the old MMRV cupcake. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for that. You know, so there are many other causes to developmental disorders, including autism. It's not just these injections, not just cupcakes, right? There are many other factors. There's probably a trauma component, right? A lot of developmental disorders certainly have high ACE scores. That certainly seems to be the case too. If you look, you know, empirically, high ACE scores are correlated with, you know, many diseases beyond just the developmental psychological illnesses. You can look at any illness, and there certainly seems to be some sort of, you know, correlation between the two. So is there a certain amount of information that we could draw from that? Sure. But I think, you know, I always come back to this teaching that I had from, not directly, of course, from Carl Jung. You know, the averages are useless. Averages are a useless thing to look at, especially when it comes to empiricism. You know, like you're looking at the averages and then you're picking out someone in the crowd and trying to extrapolate this average to them, right? It's nonsense. It doesn't help the individual. These averages don't help individuals, because if you have someone, like you can make a video on Instagram saying, oh, trauma causes this disease, and someone would say, well, I've never had any trauma and my ACE scores are 0. So ACE is adverse childhood exposure. It's like some sort of psychological test. Sorry, I should have cleared that up earlier. But yeah, there's going to be people that are going to refute everything. Like, oh, my kid has a developmental disorder and never received any shots. You know, how do you explain that, right? And this is a problem that even the alternative community faces, right? Like, we can't just have these sweeping statements of this causes this disease. It's very holistic and multifaceted. So that's a really important thing to understand. And that's why I think we need to get back to this idea of scrutiny, right? Even when it comes to alternative causes of disease, even things like mold is very misunderstood. Parasites have been very misunderstood. I used to think that the root cause of all illness was parasites. That's what a lot of alternative healthcare people say, or even, you know, just people on Instagram. People like me, I guess. So obviously, the point that I'm getting to here is that the causes of disease are many. And empiricism doesn't help us find anything. Like the point I was making earlier with Carl Jung about averages. You know, if you take the average size stone or pebble on a beach, you know, you find it and it's 5.4 centimeters in diameter. And then you go pick up a random stone. How many of those stones are going to be 5.4 inches in diameter? Right? It's not going to be very helpful. It's not going to be very, it's not going to have very much predictive power, right? Which is the whole point of doing all this research, right? So that's why I think that taking a logical approach is so much more important, some sort of rationalism approach, even a qualitative perspective, right? N=1, case study type things. Trying to figure out the causes of disease, right? And these studies are just, might be helpful in some respect. Maybe I can't speak because, I've kind of scoured the literature and read a lot of studies and kind of already have a decent understanding of the literature. So maybe there's a time and a place for empiricism and empirical findings, but, at this point, it's unhelpful, right? Once we've developed a strong fundamental foundation framework that we can work off of, the terrain framework, right? That things in our environment cause disease, and we can work logically and deduce from these fundamental natural principles about health and healing, it becomes much more easy to, kind of figure out what the causes were, right? Especially when working one-on-one with someone, because we don't have to worry about these studies, right? This study told me this. Well, that study doesn't mean anything to the individual. That study is a piece of paper, right, about other people and the average of other people, right? They're outliers, and there are a lot of them. And science and statistics can be very, very misleading. More on statistics coming soon. No matter what it is, whether it be an intervention, a cause, a theory, any idea when it comes to health, especially health, but this can be applicable to anything, right? It's important to look at these things and continuously rethink everything you know about them when it comes to science, and really keeping these fundamental laws and principles that are always true. For example, I'll give you an example for me. Zeolite. I used to think that zeolite was, this sort of God-sent mineral, detoxifying, powerful, whatever, supplement, pretty much. What it is, it's a supplement. And I'm at the point now where, again, with interventions and supplements, I can't recommend them wholeheartedly across the board. I can only recommend food across the board. I would recommend everyone take bee pollen and maybe royal jelly and honey and those sort of medicinal things, but something like an intervention like zeolite is not for everyone. If you have high toxicity in your gut, perhaps, or if you have an extremely high heavy metal toxicity, again, would be a good idea, but we obviously need to understand the root cause of the illness first. I can't just say everyone with developmental disorder go and take zeolite and you'll be healed. It's just not going to be the case. That's why these YouTube videos and Instagram videos are really complicated to make, especially when you're trying to achieve some sort of high degree of truth in your videos. It can be challenging because you want to make sweeping statements. Sweeping statements sell. That's why all these people are so popular, like these Instagrammers, they say, oh, all parasites cause disease, and parasites cause every single disease, and so they sell everyone this protocol without actually working with an individual. So I'm really trying to avoid sweeping statements when it comes to causes of disease, and I'm trying to come up with fundamental principles that we can adhere to and work off of logically and deduce from. I think that's what's really important. Like if we understand that all that is unnatural can cause disease, then we look at all artificial, parts of the environment, and we target that. And I think that's really important. Things like natural, if something natural is causing disease because it's in excess, or there's a deficiency of something that's natural, again, it's very, very important. These are the things that we need to be looking at when it comes to the causes of disease. So avoid sweeping statements, except when it comes to natural fundamental laws. I think that we do have a lot of fundamental laws and principles incorrect. Even in things like chemistry and physics, there's a lot of contradictions. And so avoiding contradiction is like the most, important thing to do, especially when it comes from working logically. So, that's kind of what my goal is. Here's the lake. You guys want to see it? It's so foggy, you can barely see it. It's kind of frozen. Pretty nice lake. I can't believe we got here in this short a time too. We were kind of gunning her through the woods there, but listen, really appreciate you guys for taking the time. If you made it this far, give us a like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever you got to do. You know what to do. I hate asking for it, but it's kind of what you got to do, right? I appreciate all you guys. You know, if you guys have any thoughts on this stuff, I'd love to chat about it. Really creating these fundamental laws when it comes to health and healing is exactly what the goal is. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, please, you know, let me know. And we can have a chat about it. Anything you disagree with, let me know. Always question things. That's it. Even if it's natural, if you think it's natural, really think about it and try to figure out if it's natural. Because I've thought a lot of things are natural. You know, zeolite, oh, I thought it was natural. And it is, right? But there's an amount that you can overconsume. It's natural to a degree. A lot of things are natural to a degree. When it comes to nature, when it comes to things that are natural, they can cause disease in excess, right? Or a deficiency, right? Another example is arsenic, off the top of my head here at the end, right? Some say it's necessary for some enzymatic function, right? Some say it's necessary, but it's obviously very toxic as well, right? So these are the things that we need to think about when it comes to these fundamental principles, when it comes to deduction and logic and health. It's difficult. It's difficult when it comes to biology. Biology is such a shit field, and hopefully we can kind of clear things up. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Take care.